The steak knife gleamed under the low restaurant lights as the waiter set it gently on the table. For Emma Carter, tonight was supposed to be simple. No boardrooms. No headlines. No cameras following her every move. Just a woman having dinner alone. But life has a way of turning ordinary nights into stories you'll never forget. Because tonight, a quiet single dad working a double shift slipped her a note, and those 4 words stopped her heart cold. Scene 1, The Disguise. Emma Carter walked into the small steakhouse on the corner of Maple Street just past 8 p.m. She wore jeans, a plain white blouse, and no jewelry except for a small locket hidden under her shirt. To anyone else, she looked like a young professional grabbing dinner after work. But if anyone recognized her, they would know she was one of the most powerful women in the city. Emma Carter. Billionaire investor, youngest self-made female CEO on the Forbes list, the woman newspapers alternately worshipped and criticized. But tonight, she wasn't Emma Carter the billionaire. She was just Emma. A woman tired of being watched, judged, and used. She slid into a booth in the corner, grateful for the dim lighting. She glanced at the menu, though she already knew what she wanted. A steak. Something simple. Something normal. The server approached. He had kind eyes, though they looked tired, like he carried the world on his shoulders. His name tag read Daniel. "Good evening," he said, voice polite but warm. "Can I start you off with something to drink?" "Water's fine. And I'll have the ribeye. Medium rare." He scribbled it down, gave her a smile that didn't feel forced, and disappeared toward the kitchen. Emma let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. For once, nobody was staring. Nobody whispered. Nobody cared, and that felt like freedom. Scene 2, The Note. When Daniel returned with her food, Emma noticed something strange. As he set down the plate, he slid a small folded slip of paper beneath it, his hand trembling slightly. Emma frowned. Notes weren't unusual for her. She'd had waiters slip her business cards, investors beg her for attention, even strangers shoved letters of desperation her way. But Daniel didn't look like someone angling for a favor. When he walked away, she unfolded the note. 4 words stared back at her. "Please, don't give up." Her chest tightened. She blinked at the paper, hands suddenly shaking. How could he possibly know? She looked around the room. No one was watching her. No one else seemed to notice. She slipped the note into her purse, heart pounding, and picked up her fork. But the steak in front of her suddenly didn't matter. Because for the first time in months, Emma felt like someone had seen her. Scene 3, Daniel's World. While Emma sat frozen at her table, Daniel hurried back to the kitchen, scolding himself silently. Why did I do that? She probably thinks I'm crazy. But something in her eyes had. Daniel worked double shifts at the steakhouse, sometimes triple. His hands ached, his back hurt, and most nights he went home so exhausted he barely had the energy to read Lily a bedtime story. But he did it anyway. Because she deserved it. Still, the weight of it all sometimes pressed so heavily on his chest he wondered how much longer he could last. The words he'd written on that slip of paper, "Please don't give up," were the words he whispered to himself on nights when giving up felt easier. And when he'd seen that same hopelessness in Emma's eyes, he couldn't stay silent. Scene 4, Emma's Hidden Struggle. Emma went home that night to her penthouse overlooking the city. Floor-to-ceiling windows glowed with the skyline, but the apartment felt hollow, like a museum she didn't belong in. She sat on her sofa, pulled the note from her purse, and read it again and again. Please don't give up. What Daniel didn't know was that Emma was fighting battles money couldn't fix. Her company was in turmoil, investors doubting her decisions after a risky acquisition went wrong. Headlines screamed that she was failing. And behind closed doors, Emma carried another secret, a recent medical diagnosis she hadn't told a soul about. An illness that could change everything. She had been considering stepping down. Selling everything. Disappearing. And maybe, worse. But a stranger's note had pierced through the fog she lived in. She clutched it to her chest and whispered into the empty apartment, "Maybe not tonight." Scene 5, returning. The next week, Emma found herself back at the steakhouse. She told herself it was because she liked the food. But deep down, she knew it was because of Daniel. She sat in the same booth. Daniel approached, surprised but pleased to see her again. "Same order?" he asked with a half-smile. "Yeah," she said softly. Then after a pause, "And, thank you. For the note." He froze, embarrassed. "I'm sorry. That was unprofessional." "No." She shook her head. "It was exactly what I needed." Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. From then on, Emma kept coming back. Sometimes twice a week. They talked about little things at first. Weather. Music. The funny quirks of customers. But slowly, Emma learned about his daughter, about the way he worked endless shifts just to keep her safe. And Daniel learned that behind Emma's guarded smile was a woman who was lonelier than anyone guessed. Scene 6, the struggles collide. But life didn't get easier. One night, halfway through his shift, Daniel got a call from Lily's school nurse. She was having trouble breathing. He dropped everything, sprinted to the hospital, and spent the night by her bedside as machines helped her lungs. When he returned to work, his manager pulled him aside. "You can't just walk out, Miller. Customers were waiting." "My daughter was in the ER," Daniel snapped. "Doesn't matter. One more stunt like that, and you're done." The words crushed him. He needed this job. He couldn't afford to lose it. Emma happened to be there that night. She saw his hunched shoulders, the way his hands trembled as he took orders. And her heart broke. She wanted to help. She could pay Lily's bills without blinking. She could buy them a home, a car, anything. But if she told him who she was, he might never look at her the same way again. And for the first time in her life, Emma valued someone seeing her instead of her money. Scene 7, the reveal. The truth couldn't stay hidden forever. One evening, Daniel turned on the TV while cooking dinner for Lily. A news report flashed across the screen: Emma Carter, youngest self-made billionaire, facing scrutiny after latest company setback. He froze. The woman on the screen, the one with flawless hair and a sharp business suit, was the same woman who sat in his section every week. Emma Carter. When she came to the steakhouse the next evening, he couldn't hide the storm in his eyes. "You're her," he said quietly, setting down her plate. Emma's heart sank. "Daniel, Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I needed someone to see me," she whispered. "Not my money. Not my empire. Just me." For a long moment, he said nothing. Then finally, he nodded. "I get it. Sometimes, we just want to be human." Scene 8, redemption. The weeks that followed tested them both. Emma's company nearly collapsed. Daniel's daughter had another terrifying asthma attack. Bills mounted higher. But something had changed. Emma began helping quietly, paying Lily's medical bills through an anonymous fund. Daniel, though hesitant, finally understood it wasn't about pity. It was about love. And together, they discovered a truth neither had expected. That sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness can spark the greatest changes. Because one night, a tired single dad gave a stranger a note. And that note saved her life. Closing message for viewers. Friends, life is full of invisible battles. You never know what someone sitting across from you is carrying. Sometimes all it takes is a smile, a kind word, or even a simple note to change or save a life. Emma and Daniel's story reminds us that wealth isn't measured in money, but in kindness. And strength isn't measured in power, but in the love we show when life feels unbearable. Speech balloon, what about you? Would you have slipped that note to a stranger? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories. And remember, this story is brought to you by Be Kind Always. If it touched your heart, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and share this video. Because kindness costs nothing, but it could mean everything.